The chemistry between Patrick Mahomes and DeAndre Hopkins is really developing, and it's getting to a point that if it keeps along this trajectory, it might be something very scary come the stretch run and playoff time. This Black Friday game against the Raiders had some good examples of how the two are developing trust and how they're getting on the same page. There are obviously certain situations where plays are dialed up specifically for for Hopkins. He's the main read or he's the guy that they're looking for. But to me, the really telling situations are the ones where Hopkins is single covered and Mahomes throws balls that he just trusts Hopkins to go and get. It's not so much that Hopkins is open, it's that Mahomes trusts that he'll be able to fight off a defender and make a play. And those are not really throws that Mahomes has made through his career. He's actually a very judicious passer usually, and he tends to throw to guys who are open, guys who get themselves open, or he tries to throw people open. But he doesn't do a lot of jump balls. He doesn't do a lot of contested throws. And the fact that he's starting to trust Hopkins and that Hopkins is coming through on some of these plays is a great sign for Chiefs fans. So let's start looking at the Mahomes-Hopkins connection with this play here around 11 minutes to go in the first quarter. The Chiefs facing a 2nd and 10 at the Raiders' 33-yard line. The Chiefs come out here in 11 personnel. They've got their one running back, Pacheco, and their tight end, Travis Kelce. And then they have Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster, and DeAndre Hopkins out here. Now, the Raiders, as they did most of this game, play fairly aggressive coverage. They're playing man here. And everybody is just singled up. This actually ends up being a zero blitz. And you can see every receiver is manned up, and there's no safety over the top. And so this is just about finding a quick pass for Mahomes to beat the blitz. And he has Hopkins going deep. And look at where they are when Mahomes makes this throw. This is when Mahomes decides to throw it. He's just trusting Hopkins to go win. You know, there's nothing special about this situation. Hopkins isn't open yet. Kelce is open. And the fact that Mahomes' first look is over to Hopkins is also telling. Look, he's not even, if you look at his eyes, he goes straight over here. He's not looking at Kelce at all on this play. And Mahomes tosses it up to Hopkins, who does a great job bringing this ball in, ultimately not able to corral it. But he gets a pass interference call on Jack Jones for his physical coverage without looking at the ball. I believed watching this play that what ultimately got the call was Jones. It's hard to see from this view, but he actually grabbed the back of Hopkins' jersey for a period when the ball was in the air, and I think that's what got the call. If not, the other thing, there was some hand fighting where, that seemed a little mutual to me. Hopkins tried to push, and Jack Jones grabbed his arm. I don't know if that's what was called, but in any case, a very physical play in which the corner is not turning his head frequently, if not always, but frequently results in pass interference, and it did here. We can see it again from the end zone view. Watch this. The zero blitz comes in, and Mahomes looking at Hopkins immediately. He's got a free rusher. He just throws it up and trusts Hopkins to make the play. You can see the very end. Unfortunately, we don't get the full view, but you can see the end of the jersey tug I was talking about from Jack Jones. At the very end of that, his hand's coming off when we don't get to see the full thing, but I think that's what was called probably. But Hopkins really, I think the most amazing part of this play is Hopkins actually was like, he would make this catch. This wasn't a drop or anything. You can't see it from this view, but Jack Jones actually gets his hand on the ball and knocks it out. Like, otherwise Hopkins would have taken this one-handed and brought this in. And let's actually look at one of the broadcast replays so you can see what a phenomenal job this was from DeAndre Hopkins. He really would have made this catch. Here's the broadcast replay of this catch attempt by DeAndre Hopkins. So you can see the ball coming in, and Hopkins snags it with just one hand right here. And then I want you to watch the right hand of Jack Jones right behind the ball here. And Jones right there swipes over the ball and gets just the tip of the ball, the nose of the ball right there. He's able to knock it out and cause an incomplete pass. Hopkins would have caught this pass, which is just incredible. And Jack Jones with an awesome pass breakup. I mean, this is high-level play from both of them. I can't believe Hopkins controlled this ball, and I almost more can't believe that Jack Jones was able to reach in and look at that, just swipe it off his hand like that and force the incompletion. What a high-level play, but the Chiefs ended up getting a first down due to the pass interference. So on this next play, the Chiefs are in a 2-minute drill, and they need to make something happen quick. They're only 25 seconds to go in the half, and they have the ball on their 16-yard line. They come out with a bunch set in 12 personnel. So 1 running back and 2 tight ends makes it 12 personnel. They've got the bunch over here with the 2 tight ends and Xavier Worthy. And on this side, they've got DeAndre Hopkins isolated. Now, the Raiders kind of run a man-match combination with 1 high safety. So Hopkins is single covered here. They've got 1 safety who's responsible deep, and they're kind of running man-match principles here. But essentially, everybody gets manned up after they decide who's taking whom. But Mahomes knows he's got Hopkins one-on-one, and they run a double move. So they have Hopkins do a stutter right here because they know that Jack Jones is a very aggressive corner. If you'll remember last year in the Christmas game, he actually intercepted an out route to Justin Watson and returned it for a touchdown. So he likes to jump these kinds of routes, and the Chiefs know that. So they have Hopkins do a stutter and Mahomes does a little pump fake, and they get Jones to jump, and then Hopkins runs right by him. Mahomes hits him for a big gain of 34 yards down to midfield. You can see it from over here. Pump fake and go. Big gain for the Chiefs. And I think it's really bracing that Hopkins is being used in these situations, in high leverage situations where Mahomes needs something to happen. And he's being used so much down the field, which is nice. It's not necessarily what we expected, but he's proven very effective on these throws with a lot of air yards, which is helping to open up this offense in Kansas City. And as the trust develops even more between Mahomes and Hopkins, this should just create more opportunities overall for the Chiefs offense later this year and hopefully into the playoffs. Now let's jump ahead to 4:22 to go in the third quarter, and the Chiefs have a 3rd and 10 right about their own 45-yard line. We have another situation where we've got a bunch set and we've got DeAndre Hopkins isolated on the other side. This time it's 11 personnel. 1 running back, Samaje Perine, 1 tight end is Travis Kelce. Your 3 wide receivers are Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster, and DeAndre Hopkins. The Raiders run a cover 1 man. They continued with their aggressive man coverages, this time rolling down the safety here. They have 1 deep safety and they're manning up everybody. But the safety rolled down as a robber is essentially an extra set of eyes on Kelce. If you look, they end up kind of inside-outside in Kelce here. In another part of this week's film review, we talked about how early in the game, particularly in the first quarter, but a little bit in the second, the Raiders were trying to guard Kelce with just 1 guy, and Kelce was making them pay. Well, now it's the third quarter. Look at that. 2 guys on Kelce. The Raiders adjusted to stop letting him beat them. But this is about Hopkins, and here's Hopkins on the backside of this formation isolated. He runs an out and up. And Mahomes, again, look at where Hopkins is when he throws this ball. This is, again, a trust play. Hopkins is not wide open. He's trusting Hopkins to make this catch. And this actually is back shoulder placement of the ball. And the key to a back shoulder throw, essentially, why do you throw a back shoulder throw? You throw a back shoulder throw in a situation where it's not clear that your receiver is going to get a step on the corner and be open to throw it over the top, right? So if you're not in a position where you're thinking that can happen, you can throw it to the receiver's back shoulder and have them kind of turn around and catch it. The big key to throwing this pass is the corner can't be looking. If the corner turns his head, they're always in very good position to try to intercept this pass. Whether they are on top of the receiver or not, they can come back to the ball. And it's a very dangerous throw. In our Steelers-Cowboys film review, Dak Prescott threw a back shoulder throw when Dante Jackson was looking right at him, and Dante Jackson very easily intercepted it. So the big key here is the corner can't be looking, which is the case here. But it's a real trust route, and Mahomes honestly doesn't throw them very much. It was a big deal a couple years ago when he threw a couple to Juju Smith-Schuster, because it's just not something that he's done a lot in his career. It's a testament to his trust in DeAndre Hopkins that he throws it back shoulder here. This isn't anything but a ball that Hopkins has to go up and get, and he trusts him to go get it, pulls it down for a big gain on third down. You can get a little better view of the throw coming into Hopkins from the end zone cam. And look at this throw right into Hopkins, aided by the fact that the defender has no idea where the ball is. But these are chemistry throws. These are trust throws. These are throws where you believe that in a contested situation where it isn't a wide open player, the player is going to have to make a play. You're trusting him to make a play. And if that continues to develop between Mahomes and Hopkins, this could get very interesting. Now we jump to the fourth quarter. It's about 12:48 to go in the fourth quarter, and this is a big drive for the Chiefs. It's the first time they're trailing in the game. The Raiders just came and scored a big touchdown to go up 17-16, so the Chiefs desperately needed points on this drive. They're facing a 2nd down and 10 right around their own 44-yard line, and they dial up a shot play to Hopkins. So it's not clear initially, maybe calling it a shot play that they dialed up is a little premature because it's not clear that this was actually intended to be a downfield play, but it turned into one. What they do end up doing is they end up motioning the pocket. They end up moving the pocket to try to help mitigate the Raiders' pass rush, which had really been dominating their offensive tackles, particularly Wanya Morris. And so they move the pocket over to the left, and they've got a kind of mesh concept here with crossers going over each other. And Mahomes is looking for Hopkins on the right side. And he directs, if you notice, he directs Hopkins. This is why I'm saying it may not have been called as a shot play. He directs Hopkins to turn this upfield, and Hopkins is looking back. And so right there you can see Mahomes saying, take it upfield, go upfield. So this might have just been like a crosser, but at this point Mahomes says, take it up, there's nobody there. So Hopkins wheels around and Mahomes throws it, probably a little earlier than he wanted to because Max Crosby is coming down on him. So he ends up throwing it more in the back shoulder area again, which in this case ultimately probably wasn't necessary. It probably would have been better to put it out in front. But Mahomes didn't know that when he was throwing it because, he had to throw it a little earlier than he probably wanted to. And so he ends up underthrowing the ball a little bit and more in the back shoulder area. The defensive back never gets his head turned and runs right through Hopkins, drawing an obvious pass interference penalty. This is one of those situations, again, Mahomes doesn't do this very often, but we've talked about it on our evaluations of Russell Wilson, who tends to do this a lot. There's some value in underthrowing a deep pass a little bit, A lot of times it's easier for the receiver to come back to the ball because defenders are often playing catch up and are not looking back at the ball. And it increases the chance of a pass interference play when a defender's catching up to the ball, because if they don't know the ball's underthrown and the receiver's trying to come back to the ball, a lot of times you'll get them to run right through the receiver like the defender did here and draw a pass interference penalty. We can see it here from the end zone view. They move the pocket. Mahomes looking for the throwback right here. He's directing Hopkins to go downfield, and he lets it loose. Hopkins stops for the back shoulder. The defender runs through him. Again, a lot of trust here. Mahomes ad-libbing and throwing it up there, not knowing whether Hopkins is going to end up getting deeper or he's Whether this will be contested, it ends up being back shoulder, so it is contested, but he trusts DeAndre Hopkins. This game showed a lot of instances where Patrick Mahomes had a lot of trust in DeAndre Hopkins. This is later on the same drive. Again, remember, Chiefs trailing in the fourth quarter, 17-16. Now there's 12:30 to go in the fourth quarter. They're at 2nd and 20 because of 2 procedural penalties. So again, they really need a bit of a chunk play here to make this 3rd and manageable. And who's the guy they go to? It's DeAndre Hopkins. What they're lined up in here, they're lined up in 11 personnel. They've got 1 running back, 1 tight end, and their 3 wide receivers are all lined up over here. And they're kind of run a hybrid between like a levels concept and a 3 verts. So they're going to have Worthy, Watson, and Hopkins all kind of run these like over routes on different levels, taking up the defense. And the Raiders are in cover 1 man again. Here's your deep safety underneath. 1, 2, 3, 4, all manned up. And so again, on this play, 2nd and 20, we need yardage to make this manageable for 3rd down and to get into field goal range. DeAndre Hopkins is the primary read on the play. He's running kind of the underneath over route. And once he gets past the underneath safety, the robber, Mahomes goes right to him. If you look, Mahomes is reading Hopkins all the way. He's the primary read here. He's just waiting for him to get open. And Hopkins gets a lot of that yardage back, creating a 3rd and 5 situation. The Chiefs are clearly looking to Hopkins to make big plays for this team, and they're trusting him in situations where he has to go and win. Let's see how this develops through the season, but the fact that they're at this point with Hopkins coming onto the team mid-season is extremely good prognostically for where they will be when it comes winning time in the playoffs.